responses or making a statement?
Yeah, I have several matters I'd like to raise with you, Minister, and I'll leave time at the end for a response.
Thanks, Deputy.
Firstly, in response to one of my September PQs, you stated that all HEIs were to publish by February action plans on tackling sexual violence and harassment. So I'm wondering, have all HEIs complied, and if not, what steps are you taking to ensure compliance? I'd also like to note your work in this area and the progress being made on the framework for consent in HEIs. Secondly, the review of SUSI is most welcome. However, in the meantime, there are a number of issues that need addressing. Students of private teacher training colleges are mostly not eligible for SUSI. The state's applying a double standard here, as we're happy for them to be trained as teachers through these colleges, but we're unwilling to support them in their studies. Also, graduate entry medicine students can't access this support. These courses are only for graduates, but it is not classified as a postgraduate course, meaning they can't avail of either undergraduate or postgraduate supports. So this situation needs to be rectified before the new academic year. Thirdly, and perhaps a request from Minister Collins, is that the ability of students to progress in their apprenticeships is being affected by the pandemic. Not only are there expected delays in on-the-job elements, some students are waiting for results of off-the-job phases, which is confusing that that's a result of the pandemic. It doesn't make sense, but this means they can't progress. So can the Minister look into these delays immediately and assure students they'll be supported through their apprenticeships if they take longer than expected? Next, I know you're aware, Minister, that for any number of reasons, including poor broadband in rural areas, some students do not have suitable study environments at home. So I'm wondering, can you work with colleges and universities to facilitate these students are given a priority in accessing campus facilities? And of course, I look forward to continue working with you in relation to remote learning in places like the Ludgate Hub. Before Christmas at the Education Committee, the Irish Universities Association highlighted that the employment control framework, which has capped the number of permanent staff in the sector, is unsustainable. At a time when student numbers are growing, we need more teaching staff. For years now, staff have been overstretched and more work is poured on early career lecturers in precarious employment. The IUA is seeking a development structure whereby universities can manage their own workforce within a defined budget. I'm wondering what your response is to this. And finally, just to note that myself and most other opposition deputies have co-signed Deputy Rose Conway Walsh's student accommodation bill, which will provide for greater protections for student renters and their families. The pandemic has highlighted many of the issues with this form of renting, so I hope that yourself and in conjunction with your colleagues and the Minister for Housing, that you'll actively support the progression of this bill. Thanks, Minister.
Thanks, Deputy Kearns. Minister.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach, and thank you to Deputy Kearns for her question. In relation to the actual plans on sexual harassment and violence, you're right, they've all been due at the end of February. I'm actually awaiting a submission from my officials on this now. My understanding is they're all in or almost all in, but I expect to be in a position to publicly update on that this month. I think there's been a lot of good work done from what I'm hearing across the sector, but there's a need for an awful lot of good work to be done. So I'll come back to the Deputy directly on that, but expect to be in a position to publicly update on that matter this month. In relation to SUSI, I think you've highlighted two legitimate issues in relation to teacher training, and probably even more particularly in relation to graduate entry medicine. The IMO are looking to meet me on that. I obviously know them well from my engagements in my previous department, and I will take a meeting with the IMO on that graduate entry medicine matter and the anomaly, and I think it's fair to call it an anomaly that you've highlighted there. Minister Collins will comment on the apprenticeships. On access to campus, we do have a category called vulnerable learners, and we don't define what vulnerable is, so it can be for a whole variety of reasons that you can't learn well at home, and as God willing, the public health situation improves, we will look to expand the interpretation of that. I take the point, and I do genuinely look forward to visiting the Ludgate Hub with you. I think it could be an example of a model that we need to roll out. I was visited one virtually in Longford, the Longford Women's Link recently, where women in Longford now are accessing Carlow IT from Longford. For many women that I was meeting, it wouldn't have been possible for them to access higher education did they need to travel. So I think we're onto a winner in terms of the policy objective you're pursuing there. And on the employment control framework, it is a legitimate issue. My department is finalising kind of an engagement with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform on this matter, and I recently met the Irish University Association to update them on that. Thank you.
Sure, Minister Niall
the student accommodation bill, sorry, my comments, I will engage with Minister O'Brien on that.
Yeah. Minister Collins.
Thanks, Chair. just to reply in relation to the apprenticeship backlog and the return to on-job training, a small number of critical and time-sensitive Phase 2 apprenticeship classes returned to training on the 1st of March with strict COVID-19 measures agreed via the Stakeholders Forum. And if all goes well, with that cohort, another group will return on the 15th of March. And I alluded to this earlier in my opening statement. Also, Deputy, just to restate that we recently announced capital funding of €10 million for Solas and the HEA to alleviate the backlog in off-the-job training for apprentices. But I will ask for Solas to give a more up-to-date feedback to you directly in relation to that. Thank you.
Deputy Kearns?
A little bit of time. It's that, so for some people who are doing the apprenticeship programs, it's the off-the-job stuff. They haven't got their results yet. So when they're on the job, the time that they're doing on the job is not being counted as their apprenticeship because they're off-the-job stuff. They haven't got the results for that yet. So I'm wondering if you can look into what perhaps could be the hold-up in relation to that, because obviously that's the desk work, the stuff that could be going ahead during a pandemic. So, for example, if you're doing an apprenticeship in mechanics and you've done your off-the-job stuff, you've started your on-job training, but it's not being counted because you haven't got your results yet. That's the issue that I just think needs
Collins,
to be looked into
briefly.
as soon as possible.
We'll revert to you in relation to that.
Thanks, Minister.
Thank you.
On to the next group of government TD, starting with Richard Bruton. You have 3 minutes, Deputy.